Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of How We Disney. Tonight we're going to be talking about our favorite bars and lounges throughout Disney World, the resorts, and Disney Springs. So you want to start us out a little bit, Sarah, with some background?
Sure. So for us, I'd say bars and lounges is definitely one of the things that we really enjoy in Disney World. Disney, of course, can be a family vacation, but for us, most of the time it's ourselves or us with other adults. Sometimes I know families that do go down and they still will sometimes have some of the adults sneak away and go enjoy a drink and just relax for a bit. So I think bars and lounges are maybe not something a lot of people immediately think of for Disney, but they are awesome. Very different kind of options throughout Disney. So there's some that are very much just like a traditional bar. There's some that are crazy themed. And for me, getting this down to 5 bars was tricky. I think we're going to have some the same, or maybe
For sure.
all of them. I think at least our top ones. But there's just so many great bars at Disney World, depending on what your preferences are. Yours could be different from our choices, but there's a lot to choose from. But I think I got a good 5.
Yeah, me too. But with that, do you want to kind of start with your number 5 and we'll work our way down the list to our favorite bars?
Sure, that works. So
All right.
number 5 for me is Rose and Crown.
Okay.
Is Rose and
Awesome.
Crown on your list?
Rose and Crown's on my list.
All right.
It is number 3 on my list.
Oh, much
So
higher.
much higher, but
All
why don't you
right.
start us out?
Sure. For me, it's number 5, in large part because I don't drink beer. And so this is a great bar. I think all around, I think it ranks higher, probably if you enjoy beer, which I'll let Jeff talk a little bit more about. But this is just such a good one. It's in Epcot. So Rose and Crown is going to be in the UK Pavilion in Epcot. It fits perfectly with the buildings. So I think if you're walking by, you may not even have it like jump out and be like, oh, that's a bar. It just says like Rose and Crown. I think pub maybe on the outside. There is a restaurant attached. So you have the bar area, and then there's a restaurant where if you want dining, there's an indoor and outdoor seating as well. So this is definitely like the bar lounge type of idea. But it has a great variety of drinks. The main focus though is going to be the beers and then the pub blends. So I'll let you talk since it ranked higher for you a little bit more about it.
Sure. So I really like it. Just talking about those pub blends and the drinks. It's just so lively inside. You walk up to the bar. They have a huge menu. My favorite is just some of those different pub blends. I particularly like the Golden Fox, which is Boddington and Bass mixed together. But you can get sweeter ones. I think it might be a Snake Bite, which has some cider in it. You can get your traditional beers. So they have beers from the UK. They have Guinness, all of that as well. They serve wine. I know they serve mixed drinks. I'm fairly certain. But it's a huge menu, and really whatever you want, you can get. But part of the reason, in addition to that it ranks so high for me is just how lively it is in there and how fantastic these bartenders are. They're so into their jobs, and they're so into the entire theme of that UK pub feel that it really is a fun environment to be in. So you walk in, and a lot of times, there's barely going to be any room to fit. You just kind of wait your turn, slowly keep inching forward towards that bar. But really, it's that entire environment that I think makes this such a fun place to go and hang out. You just kind of got to get past the fact that it's always going to be busy unless maybe you're there right at open. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty much busy from an hour or so after open till close every day of the year. So for that reason, though, just the theming, the enjoyment, the huge list of food that they have, or I'm sorry, not food, but drinks that they have there, it's really the reason why it ranks so highly for me.
Yeah, I would say in the pub area, I don't know if they have any food on it. Maybe there's like some small appetizers that carry over
I think
from the
there
restaurant.
are some small dishes you can get. Just we don't do that. We go there to drink.
Yeah, you typically, so I would say they have small tables that you can kind of stand around. If it's hot outside, you can kind of stick with the AC. But the trade-off, like Jeff said, is it is typically really busy in there. So typically, I'd say we walk in, and then there's going to be a mass of people around the bar, and then you kind of wait and like make your way to the front. So it's not like a quick, usually pop in, pop out, just because you do have to get to the bar to get your drink. But like he said, the bartenders are great. I would also say if you pop in some nights, so I don't know if this is every night, but they do have performers, so people in there singing, and that just brings the kind of liveliness even one step more. And I just think, yeah, it's such a great environment. And really, if you kind of don't think about it, I really do feel like I'm in like the UK. Like you forget.
You forget where you are.
Yeah. So I would say that is just a great bar. Even if you don't drink, I still say like pop in and kind of take in that atmosphere. And it's an easy to get to bar, which also is why, so like ease of the bar access is also a factor for me when packing these. And this one, you're walking around Epcot, it's easy to just kind of pop in. It's a very convenient bar to stop in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun place to go hang out, kind of see what people are doing, take in the atmosphere, and get a good drink or two.
Yeah, I should also add one last thing is I don't drink beer really, so typically for me is I will get a cider. They also have a cider where you can drop in a black currant shot, so I think it's just called cider and black currant. But that is typically like my go-to drink. But I'm again not a huge beer person. They have Guinness, they have a bunch of other stuff, and typically the blends are gonna be the ones that are layered. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right, what was your number 5
So
then?
my number 5 is Oga's Cantina in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And the reason this one's on there is solely for the environment, the feel, the cast members, the interactions, the music. It's not for the drinks. I mean, the drinks are fine. They're pre-mixed drinks. There's a lot of places, I think, in Disney that you can get better drinks. So I won't really spend too much time talking about those. But this is probably the best themed bar that I've ever been into. It really feels like you're walking into a cantina in Star Wars, and the cast members there are so into their roles. They are so into this entire theme that they're putting on. I think DJ Rex playing his music in the corner is amazing. If you take in all the different, I guess, what do you want to call it? Theming of this restaurant, it really does take you away from Hollywood Studios and into a whole nother location. And then, if you stay there long enough, there is this thing that happens that's kind of fun. So if you don't want to know what it is, kind of turn this off for a second. But if you stay there long enough, there's an entire play or act that goes on where the restaurant or the bar breaks down, and the cast members all have to figure out how to fix it. And that's a whole thing that kind of goes on a little production. But to the drinks, I mean, they are good drinks. They're themed drinks. They're kind of fun. A lot of them come in or look unique, like they're bright colors, or the way they pour them from behind the bar is cool. So for that reason, I would say the pouring part and stuff, I'd recommend it's a much better experience if you are at the bar. And our experience is that if you ask for it before you go in, they might make you wait a few more minutes, but they're always willing to accommodate that. And I found that the experience while at the actual bar is better because you get to see all the details behind that the Imagineers have put into just the way drinks are actually created for the guests. And you wouldn't see that if you were out at another one of the seats or stands where they just bring you a completed drink. But for me, it's really just the theming, the music, the way it kind of encompasses all that is Star Wars for why this is my number 5 place in Disney.
Yeah, so this is actually my number 4. So
nice.
You set me up for it. The reason it probably ranks a little bit higher than my 5 is, again, the theming, but also there are more non-beer drink options. Yep. So the Fuzzy Tom Tom, I might be saying that wrong, but it's the one that makes your lips tingle is the way that I remember. So if you're looking at the menu, there's one that has a foam on it, and it kind of makes your lips tingle, and the taste of it is good as well, but it's just kind of that fun thing where, like, do I want my face to be numb? Like, sure, yes I do. And so I would say that the drinks, again, like Jeff mentioned, are pre-mixed drinks, but they still all taste good. So that one I'd say is a go-to. There's also a Jedi Mind Trick that is pretty good. So there are some drinks on there. There's also pretty good non-alcoholic themed drinks. So we have actually gotten a few of those when we've gone in for breakfast before, and we've just gotten a few of the non-alcoholic. There's the blue milk in there. So if you want like the fancier version of blue milk, they have that in there. I would say a ding against it compared to some of our other ones is they do have some like food snack type items, but they are pretty bad. So
Yeah.
I would say that the food is a big ding against it for this one, but I agree. The atmosphere is just great. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're gonna love it. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, though, you really do think that you're in a completely different place. So I think it's one of the best themed bars in Disney. There's one I probably like a little bit more theming wise, but it is a great bar, and because of the experience, I can forgive like the pre-mixed drink aspect. And it's definitely up there. And I do think DJ Rex just adds so much fun to the atmosphere. And you have to stay long enough to have that thing Jeff mentioned before, which I won't go into detail again about. But it's worth kind of going in, relaxing. I would say that you have to have a reservation. So like Rose and Crown, you can just walk into anytime. Here you need a reservation. So make sure you have that and make sure you check in. But this is one you have to plan ahead a bit more than a lot of the other items on our list, or on my list at least.
Yeah, so a little bit more on the reservation. That's part of the reason why I didn't maybe rank a little higher is not only do you need a reservation, but the reservation honestly is to go stand in line. So you can't even stand in line and wait to enter unless you have a reservation. So that's a little bit of just extra time that you have to plan for. The other downside is if you do have a large party or larger party and you don't want to wait at the bar, a lot of what seating or standing room is available is shared. So, that's not really necessarily always a problem, but you are going to be put with another party and you're going to be standing next to another party or sitting next to another party. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something you should know ahead of time that it's not going to be your traditional bar setup or anything like that where you can go in, get a booth, get a table, something like that. I mean, they take you to a location, your host does. They say this is where your party is going to be, and then it may or may not be sharing a booth or a table with another party.
Yeah, no, I completely think that's a good point. And the last thing I will say is that most of the bars on my list are unique to Walt Disney World. This one does have a pretty much carbon copy in Disneyland. So if you've been to the one in Disneyland, it's pretty much, I don't know if it's identical, but it's, I believe, very, 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 very similar to the one in Disneyland. So yeah, that was my number 4.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, well then I will give my number 4, which is Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar in Disney Springs. Is that on your list?
It's my number 3.
Okay, nice.
So yeah.
All right, so Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar in Disney Springs is a bar themed after, if you are familiar with Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. This is actually the pilot from the beginning of the movie. This is Jock Lindsay, and this is the story of his bar and all the adventures he's been on. And the reason I really enjoy this bar is because you can sit at the physical bar and take in all the relics and stuff behind the bar, and that's a fun time. You can sit at a booth or any of the other seats inside and take in different aspects of his adventures there. They have a really cool round booth where you're kind of in, I think, a submarine or something that's really unique. And then they have a ton of outdoor seating if you're into that as well. So there's so many different aspects or ways you can enjoy this bar. That really added to it. I also really enjoy their drinks. Specifically, I like the Cool-Headed Monkey. That's a really fun mixed drink they have there that comes in a cool souvenir glass. But overall, again, this one has a lot of theming that is to an obscure character that most people wouldn't have even known about prior to this bar opening. And now Disney has gone ahead and made this character have his entire theme, have an entire story, a backstory with all these different relics and adventures he's been on that you can kind of take in and just notice new details every time you go. So it's for that reason that this ranked number 4 for me.
Yeah, so this was my number 3.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think the fact that there's really, really well-themed indoor seating, it has a lot of details that you can kind of take in depending on where you're seated. The bar is really fun, so it's a great bar. Yep. It's pretty long, and there's a lot on the back of the bar to look at, so it's not like you're just sitting there and staring at a blank wall. There's a ton of stuff to kind of investigate when you're sitting there as well. And the outdoor seating, if it's midday, it can be very hot, but otherwise you're looking at all of Disney Springs, and so that also is really fun. I would say for busyness, if we go earlier in the day, especially if it's not a weekend, pretty easy to get a seat. if you go like nighttime on a Saturday, it's probably going to be packed. So
yeah, it's a popular one.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those kind of coin toss, but I would say like if you're down in Disney Springs, like it's definitely worth popping in if you want to drink. I'd say out of anywhere in Disney Springs, this is, at least for me, would be my first choice to kind of go to of the Disney Springs bars, and there's lots of great Disney Springs bars. Yeah. So yeah, I think the theming, the drinks are really good. The drinks are the main focus for us when we go, but I do know they have small bites. Do you know if we've had any of the small bites?
Yeah, we've had their flatbreads before. Okay. I think we've had a couple different flatbreads that they have, and they've always been good. I mean, I don't think I would go there for the food. Not that it wasn't good, but there's better places to get food. You go there for the drinks and the atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, but if you're looking for something to go along with it, they do have those options. Yeah. But yeah, I think that the drinks are really good. There's a mojito I like there. That's mojito. Or no, I'm sorry. Something else mojito. I'm blanking on the name now. But they do have a bunch of drinks that are themed to the bar and that change. So yeah, nice. It's a really good one.
Nice. All right, so that was my number 4. We already know your number 4. Mm-hmm. We know my number 3 is Rose and Crown.
My number 3 was Jock Lindsay.
All right, there's a lot of overlap so far.
I think.
And again, we don't share these ahead of time. So what's your number 2?
I can guarantee that our last 2 are the same.
I guess we probably have the same 5 favorite bars.
I do think. I don't know if our 1 and 2 are the same. So my number 2 is Nomad Lounge.
Okay, that is not my number 2. That's my number 1.
I thought so. And should I just say my number 1 then?
Sure, my number 2.
All right, so my number 1 is Trader Sam's.
Yep, you got the shirt on to match. And that's my number 2 favorite bar. So let's talk about Nomad Lounge first, since you brought it up.
Sure. All right, so Nomad Lounge. So honestly, Nomad Lounge and Trader Sam's, I would say, are just what is your mood. So Nomad Lounge is going to be an awesome, relaxing bar that has... So I guess I first should say it's in Animal Kingdom. It's going to be going towards Pandora. So before you cross the bridge into Pandora, it's going to be connected to Tiffin's. So you have Tiffin's first, which is a sit-down dining in Animal Kingdom. Nomad Lounge is going to be kind of a secondary area, which has an indoor bar, seating inside with the bar, and then also an outdoor patio, which has seating, which they'll serve you from Nomad Lounge. So it's a very convenient bar. I'd say it's probably the bar we go to the most in Disney World out of any bars. Even though it's not my number 1, it's very easy to get to. Yep. And it's just a combination of just good theming. So it's not as in-your-face theming as maybe Jock Lindsay, but there's still a lot of really great Disney theming in there. And it's kind of adventure and exploration type of Animal Kingdom theming, and amazing drinks. And amazing food. So not only does it have the good atmosphere, it has great food and great drinks. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so for me, besides the food and the drinks, it really ranked that high for me as my number 1 because of the fact it has the most relaxing, enjoyable outdoor seating of any bar, lounge, or any place I've been to at Disney. If you're there with a group of 3 or 4, or it's a quiet time, they've got these huge couches that easily can fit 6 people that are kind of U-shaped or C-shaped. If it's just the 2 of you, or it's busy and you're trying to find a seat anyways, they have a ton of just small tables with 2 chairs. You're outside right next to the bridge heading over to Pandora. I will say that the only time it's a little tough, you don't want to probably be out there in August in the middle of the afternoon, but even if you go at night, there's fans, it's under cover, there's shade, and it is just such a fun place to go, sit down, relax, spend half an hour, spend 2 hours, it doesn't matter. It's a great place to just go and get out of the hustle and bustle of the park, enjoy some amazing drinks. For me, this is where you can get Kungaloosh beer, which is one of my favorites in Disney. So they have that. They have some amazing food. I personally love the churros. That's, I think, Sarah's favorite thing there. I love the Impossible sliders. But I also know a bunch of people who've had the regular sliders there and think they're awesome. They have great charcuterie board. They have awesome bread service. So really, I think it shares the same kitchen as Tiffin's, which is probably why it's so good. It doesn't have the same menu. It's a much smaller one, but it's coming from the same kitchen, and I think that's probably why this food is just so much better than the food at any of the other bars in my opinion at least. And then, the drinks, the bartenders there are knowledgeable, they're friendly. There's usually a seat if you're willing to go indoors or outdoors. You may not always get your exact choice, but it's just a fun place to go, hang out, and spend some time relaxing.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking for relaxation outside, you really couldn't pick a better spot. If it's a nice day or evening, we've been out there later in the day some nights, But also sitting at that bar. So I guess Jeff's completely right. My go-to item, even I'll get it for like dinner or sometimes even if I'm not hungry, I need to get the churros. There's the best part is, well, one, if you want gluten-free, I believe they do have gluten-free or they are just standard gluten-free, but they're amazing. And there's a dipping sauce. So there's a vanilla dipping sauce and then like a spicy strawberry sauce. So it sounds weird, but it's delicious. Yeah. So those are so good. And for me, my go-to drink is going to be the Hightower. So this is going to be like a tequila-based watermelon drink. I absolutely love it. So it's very refreshing. But we've also been there if you're sitting at the bar. Like Jeff said, the bartenders are so knowledgeable that you can just say, hey, I'm in the mood for something. Will you just make something for me? And so we've had it where they'll just make up a drink. They'll be like, okay, do you want what kind of alcohol do you like? And so they'll just make something up for you. And they are just so good and so knowledgeable. And I would just say they definitely make this kind of a step up above a lot of the other bars as well. So for me, it's going to be a combination of kind of the food, the bartenders, and the drink options. I've only had maybe one or two drinks we didn't care for. So one was go ahead.
The Mustang coffee.
Okay.
if you like it, I'm sorry, but for me, it's the worst drink I've had in Disney. It's like coffee with butter melted in it and maybe cinnamon or something. But I had that once. That's the only drink I personally did not like there. So if you want to listen to my recommendation, get anything but the Mustang coffee.
Yeah. And then another one I had was called Jen's Tattoo, and that one was very sweet. So if you like super sweet drinks, then it might be a good one for you. But for me, that was another one that, like, once I had it once, I agree with you about the other Mustang. But again, it's going to be your personal preferences. For me, my go-to is going to be the Hightower. They have fancy, like, one that comes with a flower light on it. So if you want, like, the light on it that looks all pretty, like the Rivers of Light show, they have that. So there's just a massive menu. They have tons of beers and everything. And if you can't find one you like and you're sitting at the bar, you can always check, and the bartender may or may not be able to make something up. It depends, I guess, how busy it is. But it's always worth asking as well. So great food, great atmosphere, and super convenient. I would say busyness-wise. So you typically, again, if you go earlier in the day, you're going to be fine. But this one, I feel like it's a lot more like local or Disney, like frequent Disneyers.
Yeah.
So, but you will sometimes see people in there with like a kid sleeping in a stroller and that type of stuff. I'd say I see that more here than other ones. But it's still a bar area, but it's Disney, so you'll have sometimes kids taking a nap in the AC as well. But yeah, overall the atmosphere I'd say is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So anything else on Nomad?
No, I think that's about it for Nomad.
All right. So my number one.
And my number two.
Is Trader Sam's. So Trader Sam's is going to be in the Polynesian Resort Hotel. Yep. And so this is going to be one of the hotels that's on the monorail of Magic Kingdom. So it's a little bit harder to get to. You'll typically have to go there or the ticket and transportation station and kind of hop over. But it is an amazing bar. So it is going to be on like the bottom floor. There is one thing to be careful. There's kind of Trader Sam's Grog's Grotto, which is going to be the main indoor bar. There's also the terrace. So if you go and they're like, oh, the terrace is open. The terrace is not the same thing.
It's not the same.
So the terrace is, you can get some of the same drinks. There are most of the same drinks. But the reason you go to Trader Sam's is for the experience. So
the show.
For the show, exactly. This is what I believe is the best themed bar in Disney. So for me, this is the one that if we have the time in a trip, this is where I would take people for like a fun bar. So I would say make a point to make it so you can go to the indoor one, not the outdoor one. That can take some planning, though. So do you want to talk about the process?
Sure. So this is actually why it didn't rank number one for me, and this is the only reason why. You do have to show up probably at best 30 minutes early, but to guarantee yourself a spot an hour early. So yes, you are going to wait an hour in a line to enter a bar in Disney. What happens is usually about an hour before or so, depending kind of how the day is going, cast member will come out, take your name, how many people are in your party. You do get to leave then, but at that point you only have maybe 30, 45 minutes, so you can't really go that far. And then when the bar opens, you come down, they'll call your party, you come in, and you get your seat. But it does involve you getting to this bar about an hour at least before it's open, and then you wait in line for this to happen. So for this whole process, you can't do this in advance. It's not like Oga's where you make a reservation. You actually have to be there. So again, for that reason, it was ranked number 2, and that's the only reason. Other than that, it's pretty much a perfect bar if you ignore the prices.
Yeah, so it is an effort to go there. So I agree. If you could just pop in, but the line does mean it's good. So the fact that there's that many people waiting in line, this one everyone does know that it's very good, but it is small inside. So it's going to be one of those where it's kind of, you got to hope you get a good spot. I think if we go the two of us, it's a little bit easier. We'll typically try to sit at the bar. I would say that if it's just two of you or if you're a small party, it's nice to sit at the bar because you can interact with the cast members a bit more.
Yep.
So I've had some really fun times where we were there and you'll have them like singing or doing stuff behind the bar, or the one time they made like a pretend infomercial for me about one of our mugs. But they're just amazing cast members, insanely funny. I would say that there are good drinks, so they will make the drinks. My go-to is probably the zombie.
Yeah, mine too.
Yours? Okay, yeah, so it's strong. So
the hippopotami Mai Tai is also pretty good, I think.
Yeah, and the reason that the drinks are so fun here, and you might want to search ahead of time, that certain ones are going to cause a reaction in the bar. So this is part of the interactive, I think, Disney fun of this bar. So, for example, if you order the hippopotami Mai Tai, when they bring it over, there's like hippos got loose, and then they go poo poo. There's two gun noises, and they go 2 shots of rum. And so by the time you sit in there for a little bit, you start to learn like what you're supposed to be shouting out. And so that aspect to me is what makes this bar just, the theming is great. There's like volcanoes will erupt, and there's a tiki goddess. And so all of those aspects, just you get sucked into it and you feel like you're part of a show or something.
Oh, for sure you're part of a show. There's drinks that involve getting a pearl. There's drinks that involve an octopus kind of getting some alcohol down. There's drinks that involve the tiki gods. There's drinks where cast members put on goggles and spray water at you as they dive under the ocean. So there's so much going on in this bar that really it's more than a bar. I mean, you're there for the show, the entertainment. There's even things built into the bar. So there's seats that kind of slowly sink at such a small space that you don't realize it until you're about 2 feet below the person sitting next to you. So all of these things just added together really make this one of, if not the best, well, definitely in my opinion, the best themed bar on Disney, because really you're not going for the drinks. I mentioned earlier, they are expensive. I think that the drinks themselves in any other bar would be considered terribly overpriced. But here, it's the entire environment. It's the entire show. It's the interaction with the other guests, the interaction with the cast members, the tiki glasses, the fact that it's such a small, intimate environment inside, that they have it set up so that there's thunder and there's lightning and there's all these different things going on. That's really what you're paying for by going here. And Sarah didn't mention the food yet, but the food is surprisingly good for a place that I think could have gotten away with not serving great food because it offers so much else. They didn't do that. Their food is quite good. I don't think it's as good as Nomad, but you can easily go there and get a meal as well. It's all finger food or appetizer type food, like tacos or smaller things like that, but it's very good as well.
Yeah, we've had, the tacos, the flatbreads, the dumplings. So we've had a bunch of the food there. I should say, I guess 2 things. So one is the mugs. So the mugs are collectible. You will sometimes, we've been in there many times where people have come and gotten drinks just because a new mug has come out. So they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to drink another drink. But I think it's something like the zombie, for example. I think currently it's $15 if you just want the drink, $25 if you also want the mug. So if you want to purchase the mug, you can. You would just order that one and say, hey, I want the one with the zombie, and they will give you the mug. So yeah, Jeff's showing an example. So that is going to be our hippopotami Mai Tai mug, and then on the back it has kind of the Trader Sam's. So yeah, we have a few of these in our house, and they are a fun souvenir. So again, they are not all going to have tiki mugs, but if you order certain ones that do have tiki mugs, you can always ask your server. The other thing that we didn't bring up, which we probably should, is Trader Sam. So Trader Sam is from the Jungle Cruise. So if you don't know where all this theming and tiki and all this stuff came from, if you're riding the Jungle Cruise at the very end, you're going to have Trader Sam, and the cast member will typically say he'll give you a deal of his heads for one of yours. And so that's where all of this is built around. There's going to be things like like you have the volcano and the tiki goddess, or Oa, but there's also like little details. Like in one of the shelves we were seated by one time, there's all these books, and one's like, don't eat people or something like that. So there's tons of just fun details in there as well, but it's all going to come from kind of the Jungle Cruise Trader Sam's theme. They have both alcoholic and non-alcoholic options. So like one of the non-alcoholic options is Schweitzer Falls. And so that's going to also be kind of tying back to the Jungle Cruise theming. But the Trader Sam aspect is what kind of inspired all of it.
Yeah, I will say one thing about the mugs. So if the only reason you're going is for a mug, I will say that we go quite a bit. So there are times where you go and you hear them say, well, we're out of this mug or we're out of that mug, so you can't actually buy them. This especially happens when there's more popular ones out or mugs that are new releases. So I would say just be aware of that it's not always a guarantee that the mug you might want will be in stock to purchase. So just keep that in mind, that if you're dead set, I need to own this mug and that's why I'm going, you may not find that it's in stock. But for us, that usually doesn't matter. We usually, if we want to mug that trip, we'll get whatever's in stock. And if it's not there when we want it, we'll get it next time. But that does happen sometimes, that a mug that you want won't be there.
Yeah, and sometimes there's mugs where we didn't even know they were still there. So, like, they will sometimes get mugs back in. So, for example, behind us is the Hatbox Ghost, and so I'll just kind of, like, point. There it is.
That one.
So that was one that was, I think, around Halloween, maybe? So it was released, and we didn't know they still had it. So we went and got our drinks, and then we saw somebody with it. We're like, wait, like, do you still have that? And they're like, yes. We're like, we will take one. And so, so they do change their mugs. There are special mugs that come out. Even like the Hippopotami Mai Tai, which they'll have most of the time there, they'll change the colors of the mugs. So if you're a mug collector, there's a whole slew of them that kind of go hand in hand. There is a Trader Sam's in California, so Disneyland. This one I believe is better.
It's way better. The one in California is far less themed. There's less interaction. The cast members out there just aren't getting into it the same. I don't think it's designed to be the same, because every time we've gone, it's had a little bit of like interactive fun with it, but it's more of a regular bar than it is the show bar that we are here. So I don't even really think you can compare them, other than the design of the building and the name.
Yeah, they'll have like the mugs and that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, but the Disney cast members at Disney World definitely get into it more, at least from our experiences. So I would highly recommend this bar. I think, again, all the details in there. It is a pretty dark bar, so you might go in at 3 o'clock when it is early into open and not realize that it's still sunny by the time you get out, but it is a great bar. You can always, so our strategy is typically to get there at open and get there before and get in as one of those first groups. Of course, it's open quite late a lot of times, so you can't always pop in later. You're just then at the mercy of, if there's a seat, they'll let you in. If there's not, then they might take your name, but then you're kind of relying on how quickly people turn over, and you could stay there for a very long time if you wanted. So it's always one of those kind of unknowns. So for us, our strategy is typically to go at open. If that doesn't work with your trip, you can always try popping in after. If you're 2 people, it's going to be much easier than if you're a group of, so like last time we were there, we had family, so we were a party of 6. So for that one, we knew we had to plan a little bit more. So there's only limited number of seats if you're a big, especially a big like 8 or something group. So yeah, this for me, hands down my favorite bar in Disney. And it's an experience. So if you get a chance, definitely go. After a certain time, I believe they don't let kids, but Google and double check the website for that one. But it is such a fun bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are our top 5 bars. I'm surprised that all 5 were the same, just in a different order. But I guess that means that they're awesome.
They are awesome. I did have a few close calls, but this I felt confident. And then the fact that you have the same, yeah. So I definitely go check them out. And yeah, this was good. Now I want to go have a drink.
Well, thanks for tuning back in. We'll be back next week with another episode of How We Disney. Until then, thanks, guys.
Bye.